We have very limited understanding of how we speak, and how language works. Very limited. It's weird because we are constantly using language and we do not know how it works. But yes, and it is not only the case in ordinary thinking; it's also the case in the linguistics itself, in general and theoretical linguistics today. Yeah, because these issues are not solved, not resolved. Our mind is limited in its capacity to think about them, and usually people think in terms of materialistic science, which is again very difficult to to use for this particular subject of linguistics. And spiritualistic science again is all those sciences and the spirituality. They are also of little use for us because it has to be some new, as Shubhendra says, philology, science of language. Yes. And Sanskrit is the best material for this, or the best entry, or the best guide, as it were, the means and the goal. And the reason for it is that because it is very ancient language, it lived through many structures of consciousness, which is also very important. Yeah, from the archaic structure of the Vedic times till our times of mental structure, Sankhya and Yoga, which started 500 BC, that mental structure in which we today live and think. We think the same way as 500 BC. Yeah? We didn't change the way of thinking about ourselves and our faculties and functions of consciousness. So Sanskrit has this capacity to connect all the structures into one and hold them all together and give them, how to say, mm, give them the possibility to reveal mm, their different approaches into one integral vision. It's a very unique building up a consciousness. So if Sanskrit would not be there, we would not be able to do it. This is something quite an interesting thought. If Indian tradition would not be there, which accommodated several structures of consciousness from the immemorial times of the Vedic rishis to our times of mental thinking, of Sankhya and Yoga, we would not be able to build this integral structure. According to Gebser, these structures have to become transparent. Yeah, he speaks about diaphaneity. Diaphaneity is transparency of structures. So the magic and mythical and archaic structures are present at the same time when the mental structure is being exercised. Can you imagine that? You are a rational being thinking materialistically, rationally, and at the same time, you have a deeper presence of consciousness with another approach to everything, to your faculties, to the world, which is not contradicting mental structure, but efficiently adding to it its components. This is the integral structure, which can look at everything, accommodate everything, understand everything, deal with everything, change its language, shift from one way of thinking to another. And all of this is possible because of Sanskrit language as a common media through these structures. We can trace it through, because once we know Sanskrit, once we go with Sanskrit, we can see how consciousness shifts. And I'm just giving only one example of the Sankhya and pre-Sankhyaik paradigm of the Upanishads, where the devatas, or the functions of consciousness, the faculties of consciousness, were seen in a different vision, where mind was one of the components and not the dominant one, not the dominating over the or the Indriyas. He was one of those faculties. Even they are not called Indriyas. It's also unique. If you read Upanishads, you will see that they are mentioning Chakshuk, Shrotram, Manovak, and Annam and Prana. And at the same time, they speak about Indriyas as if Indriyas is something else from these. There was a shift. Indriyas were more applications to the outer being of these very faculties, or their activities in the outer being. Later they became everything, yeah, in Sankhya. It's a kind of an interesting topic, yes. People are joining during our beginning, so they may go then later too. So I just mentioned this for the sake of introduction, yeah, not waiting for others to come, so to say. It wasn't really part of the presentation. I also noticed that it's easier for us to it would be better for you to be engaged in this thinking and discussing these issues rather than me talking in one way, because I have prepared the presentation, but last time I thought it was too much for all of you, all this kind of stuff, scientific and so on. And maybe you don't need it. Maybe you're looking for something else. Maybe you want to understand things differently. I just spent all my life on this, on the general and theoretical linguistics, and it's quite difficult for me to deviate from that terminology, and I'm looking for other ways of talking about it. But today I will go again into sport theory, and would you like to go into this? How the meanings are kind of in the Indian tradition are revealed? Yeah, I will go into Karakas and Vibhaktis. Did we speak about Karakas already? No?
The Sanskrit class.
In the Sanskrit class, yes. But here I want to show how the meaning is captured, yes, by Indra. We mentioned this story of Brihaspati and Indra in the beginning, yes? So how Indra captured the word, the meaning of Brihaspati in the sound. So the task is quite profound. Indra has to capture the sound which has the meaning, and not only capture but also use it in accordance with one's will. It's not an easy task. So how to speak something meaningful? Just let us start from there. Can you sound something which would be meaningful to me? It's a big task. Yeah, we are talking so much nonsense. But if we are to express some meaning, it would be quite a difficult thing to do if we kind of become conscious of that, what we have to do. We already use language, yes, we are already trained to sound the meaningful expressions. But to connect deeper to the deeper meaning and express it, that it will be actual in this moment of time, true to this moment of time of speaking, not in general, not some idea, not the concept, not somebody's vision, but it will become real now in this moment of time. That's quite a big task. So if we look how meaning is distributed, how Indra captured the meaning of Brihaspati's word, he invented grammar. So what is grammar actually? Grammar has three major components, phonology, morphology, and syntax. These three, and look at them, how beautiful. Phonology is alphabet. So what Indra did, he formed the alphabet. He cut the sounds which were infinite into these finite, irreducible aksharas, into these varnas, into these proper colors, into these hues of one spectrum, of all the spectrum. So these hues or varnas, or these aksharas, indestructible elements or sounds, are now perceived as unique. You can really address yourself to some kind of, to ka, or to ga, or to a, or to e. So they are kind of manageable. It is not in the one flow of actuality of sound connected to the meaning. No, now you can take it separately, as it were, at will. You have your capacity to choose what sound you want to sound. This is the whole point of Indra's creation. Then he created morphology. Morphology is where you connect these elements in such a way that they build up words. Words which can be applied as descriptions or as indicators of reality, or as the representatives of some meaningful mental concepts. Yes, yes, Anuradha.
I was wanting to ask you, why is it, like, as a linguist, do we have any understanding of why different languages capture different sounds? Why is it that, let's say, the French and other Romanesque languages do not have the any of the 70 dentals? So what, I mean, does it have to do something with the nature of the population of that place, that, or the thoughts that were tuned to something that caught it or did not catch it? So yeah, what determined the choice of certain sounds? And like, you have all the Arabic nations and all do a lot of kha kha kha, which is not there in other, which is not there in the Sanskritic tradition, for that matter. So um, how does that, how does one understand that?
Do you have any thoughts on this, Anuradha? What do you think?
so so what, I mean, the take that
Okay.
I have, because I think at the end of the day, there is a certain, I think, okay, so I think that the the creation of these sounds, or the reception of these sounds, uh, took birth in a certain kind of mental consciousness. So if that mental consciousness, and that mental consciousness had its attunements to the kind of thoughts they were engaged with, all of that, the feeling, the environment, everything shaped the mental atmosphere that was creating, in a sense, creating these thoughts.
Hmm.
I can, like, for example, speak for the Indic context of the Vedas. So, for example, in the Vedic context, the way I understand it is that there was such a genuine blank quest for knowing the absolute as a very early endeavor of the Indic consciousness. Like, very, very early on, the Indic consciousness said, there is much more to be known. And they literally blanked out their mind, and therefore allowed the full imprint of the universe to re-articulate itself through their being. Whereas I think the different cultures, I would say, that probably has a dominant mindset. So the dominant mindset of different cultures was engaged with a particular kind of a thinking, which shaped their consciousness in a manner that allowed only certain sounds to resonate or to be expressed through their vocal system.
Yeah, it's a very difficult difficult topic to explain, this kind of how Prakrits appeared. Yes, so we are talking about Sanskrit now, and so you ask about, truly speaking, in my language, you ask about Prakrits, how from one kind of origin other languages came into being with selection of certain sounds, not all of them, but certain spectrum, certain qualities were dominant or were preferable to others in certain cultures. Yeah, we can see it on Indian ground. India is a very rich. In India, there are 5 languages, 5 families of languages. So it's the richest linguistic environment in the world. There is no richer than this. There's Tibeto-Burman languages. There is Indo-European. One of all these families is Indo-European languages. So if you look at the richness of possible applications and usages of the system of apparatus, of all possible articulatory devices which we have within our reach, because we have this particular physiology with teeth, tongue, vocal cords, nasal cave, particularly built that it can resonate and articulate and create sounds. Now, these sounds have to be also clearly demarcated. We have to recognize them with the mind. That's what Indra did. I'm coming always to Indra as the divine mind, which has demarcated them, made them clear as such that we can really speak about them as entities. Yeah? And not just noises. You cannot speak. So what was that? Can you really do it? It cannot be put into the mind as a sound. Yeah, noises is something else, but the sounds demarcated as phonemes is altogether a mental exercise. Now, becoming mentally aware of these languages, French, why French, what happened to them? English, American, what happened to them? So there was a shift. I'm joking, but this is something, a preferable point, which that particular people took over time, unconsciously drifted to that, shifted to that, and all their phonetic demarcated apparatus, all the articulatory devices, were slightly modified, which we call allophones, not phones, but allophones. So to say, instead of ye, in Tamil Nadu, yetat, yeah. So you will have all kind of airs from to in all these allophones, millions of them, with all the varieties, subtleties, and so on and so forth. If we speak about this, of course, then it's just a big topic which is kind of very interesting in application. I am rather bringing our awareness to these articulatory devices, which we recognize as in any language. When you listen to me, you will hear my particular accent, but you don't care about it because you don't listen really to my accent. You don't listen to my dhvani, to my auto sound. You are listening to my articulations of sounds. And you re-articulate them in yourself and you get it. If you would not be able to re-articulate my sounds in your own way, you will not get the meaning. This is Sphota. Sphota is, we are not listening to the sound, we are listening to the articulation of, would say the sound, or say the articulation of meaning through the sound. That's what we are listening to. So I wanted to start with this matrix, with this fundamental matrix, which gives all the varieties in all cultural and Prakrit applications. And Prakrits, when they live, they are naturally living. They are not consciously trying to maintain their language, as Sanskrit is. Sanskrit is very conscious, self-conscious. You have rules of sandhis, which nobody likes, but truly speaking, these sandhis saved the language over thousands of years. Why? Because it's an awareness of change during the flow of speech, which is happening anyhow, whether you want it or not, but to come back and to reconstruct the original form, to remember the form original. And that's how Sanskrit was not diluted, did not disappear over thousands of years. Each language within 500 years changes dramatically. Each language, natural. You would not have any remnants of the previous language. 500 years is enough to really destroy the language, to change it totally. You take Prakrits, you take Hindustani or Bharaj or Ardhamagadhi, all these languages, you will see how they, from Sanskrit, they deviated. So Bhavati becomes Hoti in Hindustani, and Hoti becomes He in Hindi. Now, He is Bhavati. Now, within 300 years, Bhavati becomes He. This is natural languages. Because it's lazy at the end, Bhavati at the end, word at the end, Bhavati, everybody knows Hoti, Bhavati, Hoti, Yeah, you don't need to articulate every syllable, Bhavati. It's a lot of work, a lot of energy, unnecessary. So Prakrits are very practical, and you can see it also them, since we are talking about Prakriti, you can look into the dramas of Bhasa, Kalidasa, and so on. You will see that how they speak, different people, what languages they use. It's amazing. It's an amazing treat. If you want to study really the Indo-Aryan languages, you will see that the king speaks in Sanskrit and queen answers in Prakrit. It's in later already in classical language. Or people from different levels, they speak different languages and they understand each other, different prakrits. So each one tells you, the language tells you where this person belongs, from what level of consciousness and upbringing he is coming, his social level. Today also you can see it, what language people speak, that level they belong. You recognize, oh, this is a high level of speech, that means person is highly educated and so on, that means his upbringing is. So speech is a kind of visiting card of who you are, what consciousness you represent. That's why Vivekananda told everyone, if you want to raise your level, social level, study Sanskrit. Interesting. Because that is, language is the social level. So now here we come to another topic, which is not general linguistics. It's more like cultural studies. But truly speaking, it's a profound and interesting topic. Yes, how Prakrits appeared and all these Indo-Aryan languages came into being. And nowadays also in India, you see different accents from, if person is from Orissa or person is from Bengal, you immediately recognize. When they speak Sanskrit, you recognize them when they speak Sanskrit because they will articulate certain sounds in a particular way of their prakritistic choice. It's funny, but it is true. Oh, he's from Tamil Nadu, Yetad. You immediately know that it is, or the Jandi, when they make a voiced in between two vowels, they are voicing always because they don't have voiced consonants. So you immediately.
And for example, in Bengal, you have the o. Like there is no at all, So, and it's fabulous how, I mean, what is fascinating is how, if you show them the letter V, they will still write the letter B.
Yeah.
Although in English they know the V and the B are very different sounds, but if and visually you give them the letter V, they will still write Binay Chandra, for example. So it's amazing the complexity of the sound and the visual.
Yeah.
Because you don't have war, no? In Bengali, there is no war. War is not there in Bengali. Only boy is there. There is no war.
Yeah.
But, in same way, in Assamese, we speak Ahom. AXOM we write. We speak at Ahom. Ahom is unique. It is not available in any other language. Ho. We write ASOM, you may write, but we'll speak as Ahom.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we need to, if we go that route today, then it's a big, huge, interesting, most interesting topic for social studies and cultural studies and linguistic studies in social application, cultural changes, definitely. Yeah. Aurobindo, Aravinda becomes Aurobindo. It's O, but it's very sweet O. Rosho. Rosho is rasa. There is no S, there is Sh only. Also, there is no distinction between sh, and s, which is in Sanskrit. So only sh, shanti, no shanti. There is no soft palatal sh anymore. So there are many topics. Yeah, Anuradha.
No, I was just saying, and therefore in Bengali, when they're telling the letters, no, they will say Murdhanya Sha. And in Sanskrit, like you don't need to specify the place of pronunciation. There, they will tell you Dantya Sh. They will say Dantya, but pronounce it as Sh. Then they will say Murdhanya Sh, it's the same thing. And Talavya Sh, it's just the same thing. So it's very interesting what is happening there.
In Tamil, it's...
for Assamese.
Tamil is another big, and all of them, yeah. Orissa, there is no sh, there is s, risi, they say rishi. So all kinds of details which are kind of telling you where you are from, what region you are coming from, because that manner or mannerism or that particular, intonation in the speech tells you immediately who you are, where you are from, what you're bringing, language, and so on. And what happens with Sanskrit speaking today, Sanskrita Bharati, you also notice that people adjust Sanskrit to their own region and to their own mentality and ways of talking. Yeah, it's quite interesting. They would say something like "Chinta manasi agachati," chinta or something comes to me. Thought, because it's an expression in Tamil. So they take that syntax and put Sanskrit words into that syntax. So again, it's a interesting issue of grammar. But today I wanted us to look at the matrix to understand the basics which we call Sanskrit, but it is not. You see, Sanskrit is an interesting language because it is the only language on earth, as I know, which is not referring to the nation which is speaking it. It doesn't say Indian language, yeah. It doesn't say Tamil or Punjabi, Hindi, Marathi. It doesn't tell you Bengali. It doesn't tell you about the people. Why? It tells you perfected language. That's what it means. Yeah? It's a big question. This is the matrix. This is the foundation from which everything comes into being. All other languages can derive their ways of thinking about themselves, about their articulations, and so on. Okay, I'm going straight to my PowerPoint presentation, which I prepared for today. Yes. Not before I go to the PowerPoint presentation or to this vision of Karakas, which I want to speak today. Why I want to speak about Karakas, I want to explain. In that vision, when Indra captivated the word of Brihaspati, what happened, we want to know how he did it, because it's important for us. Once we come to the etymology, it will be very important for us to distinguish levels of meaning. And it's very complex. Levels of meaning are complex, starting from the seed sound idea, going to the structure, and structure has its own meaning. Yeah, structure is important because we live in constantly and interact within different meanings, different subjects, objects. We are constantly moving and doing something, and that structure is to be meaningful. Why? Because it will capture that sound meaning and will bring some intention into action. Because meaning is active, it creates, it has that creative aspect we spoke about. Now, to bring that creative aspect, we need the cognitive form or that structure, and that structure is Indra, that grammar. So I started with phonology, morphology, and syntax. These are two elements, three elements which Indra is using to create language, to capture the word. So the highest, the last one is the syntax. So that he creates the word is connected to other words already. It's not independent from other words. So there is no independent word unless it is nominative. Even as nominative, it needs to have a predicate. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So it is connected to other words. Yeah? If I say a tree and then don't say anything, you will be wondering, why did I say it? Yeah? And then I will say a tree is, and then you will ask what tree is. You want to know what I want to say. So neither tree nor is a message. It's not meaningful. Unless I say the tree is beautiful, and then you say, okay, now I know what you want to say. So that second is beautiful, and connection of a tree to the beautiful is fundamental for creation of meaning. And that is what brings us to Karakas. Now, in Paninian grammar, Panini distinguished Karakas from Vibhaktis. Yeah? And that is a profound kind of insight into the nature of language, because they are never going, or they are not always going together. So the formal representation of the word and the meaningful representation of what it really means, not necessarily match. It was a mind-blowing discovery for general linguistics, actually, in the West. Only in 20th century they started to use this idea. Nobody thought that the form is not totally expressing the meaning. It may be different, and meaning can just lag behind or have another kind of position. So I will explain more clearly now in a minute. If we look at these vibhaktis, or these karakas, I just put this scheme for us, which I think is quite an amazing scheme. So you have karta, you have karma, accusative case, you have karanam, instrumental case, dative sampradhanam, you have apadanam, ablative case, sambandhah, genitive case, and locative case, adhikaranam. So these are cases in our thinking, in the modern thinking, but they are not cases in Paninian grammar. They are karakas. They are meaningful generators of cases. Yeah? They are those which are making things possible. I will look into another scheme. Wait a minute. I will find another better one. Right, here it is. Let me open it. You can see these. You can see as my projection. So karta is the doer, the actor, nominative, answers to the question who. Karma is the action or the doing, accusative case, something which karta wants. It's a direct object. I'm going home. Home is a direct object. I, home, going. Going, that verb connects me with the home. Going will connect me and home. The tree is beautiful. Is, to be, will connect tree and beautiful into one. So the secondary name, or that direct object, or the most, as Panini would define, these are sutras from Panini, kartuch ipsitatamam karma, the most desired to attain, the direct object. What karta wants most is karma. It is his direct object. So I'm going home. Home is my direct object. That's why I'm going. That is the meaningful connection to me going there. Yeah, some question here. Do you see question? We talk about Indra giving total life to Sanskritam, but we read Panini's books of Sanskrit and consider him as the father of Sanskrit. No, he's not the father. He gave descriptive grammar, descriptive of something which exists. He gave many, many grammarians before him. He just finalized that form which we know as classical Sanskrit for us. By the way, something about Panini. We have to say a few words maybe. That Panini referred to tradition, profound tradition. And his description is not very rigid, actually, as it is presented in the classical approach to Sanskrit. They chose only some options from his descriptions, not all of them. Panini describes the whole Sanskrit grammar in a very flexible manner. In the 5 syllogisms he's using yes, better yes, either or, better no, and no. Now, all of these are describing the language, not just yes and no, not black and white. It can be better yes, it can be better no, and it can be either or. So the rules or the usages, even better no is a legitimate usage. You can use the word or that particular form in this way, but better not. So it's an option, but you will be understood. Totally not, it's totally wrong. You will be misunderstood. So this particular approach is very flexible. And he gives all the varieties, all the exceptions, so he's very rich. So he describes, it's a depiction, it's a kind of a description of language at that moment of time. So there's again a question, sorry. Saptabham, Jnana, Jijnana, most probably. Yeah, this is Prakritisms which I have to be able to understand. Maybe somebody can explain it, because I don't use Jnana, I use Jnana, yes, in a very particular way. Anyhow, yes, it's very close to this flexible usage of language, and Prakrits are also, and hybrid Sanskrit and Pali and all those formations which are coming from Sanskrit, like children or the applications in different fields, also can be included to the studies of Sanskrit, but already as applications. So if you look at this, what I want to tell you today is important, how the meaning is being captured in the system of creation. This is the creative system. Look, 7 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a particular hierarchy. Hierarchy is very important. Karta is first, karma is second, karana must be third, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Sampradhanam has to be fourth, must be fourth. Apadanam fifth. Sambandha 6th, and Adhikaranam 7th. What does it tell you, or what does it remind you? Does it remind you something? This hierarchy, if you look at the meanings. Okay, Svatantra Karta. Svatantra, independent. Karta is independent. Why? Because every time I introduce the subject, I introduce it at will. Yeah? It does not depend on anything. I say a tree is beautiful. So the tree is beautiful. The tree I introduce at will. It wasn't then necessary to say a tree. It had nothing to do. Everything, it was out of the tree, and then suddenly I introduced the tree. It's svatantra. It's independent. It's like number one. Number one is independent. I know what is 2, what is 3, what is 4, but I don't know what is 1. I have no idea. Can you tell me what is 1? How can you define 1? 2 minus 1, 1. Then you have to have 1. I know what is 2 because the 1 is already understood. But what is understood by 1, what is 1 is, and Pythagoras has his treatise, he says 1 is 1, 2 is 3, 3 is 6. Yes?
No, it's just interesting because the Greeks did not have the concept of the zero. So in Plato and all, you see that they only talk of the one. So their starting point was the one, and therefore they could not, conceive of the decimal system and beyond that in that sense. So I mean the zero, the addition of the zero. So it's a very interesting.
No, they of course they got this concept of the zero definitely on the day. He didn't introduce it into the numbers. He didn't introduce them into the numbers, but it's quite. Yes, you wanted to say something. Yes, please go ahead.
Is it the starting of the existence?
Huh?
Some starting of the existence, that is one.
Right. It's the one.
Other things follow.
I asked some mathematician, professor of mathematics. I was preoccupied with these numbers before. What is 1? Can you explain to me what is 1? And he said that you are asking the most difficult question, actually. This is for mathematics, because the 1, he says, it's the only number you choose at will. No, look at this. It is his definition, Svatantra Karta. Why at will? Because if I choose this as 1 on the scale, then 2 is here. When I choose this as 1 on the scale, then 2 is here. So it depends what I choose as 1. If I choose the whole scale as 1, where is 2? So it can be oneness. The whole creation is 1. And where is 2 then? So it's a problem. It's a big problem for mathematics. And I solved this problem for myself. I will not go into it because, oh God, we have no time anymore. We will have to come again back to this 1 and 0. 0 is the concept of Brahman. It is that which allows everything to manifest. It is that Samam Brahma, Yoni Samam Brahma, which accommodates everything into itself, which takes all the numbers, all the depth of that one, of the one who is, who the only one who is, and manifests it in multitude creation. And that is, without that foundation, without that space which can accommodate and as separate beings, many beings, the manifestation would not come into existence. So what I realized 1 was 0.9 into eternity. Think about it. 0.9 running into eternity. If you take the last 9 in this 9, last at the row, there is no last because it always runs. But if you take the last one, then it becomes 1 before point immediately. So it is that depth of one. So you can draw from that 9 any number before comma, before point, any infinite numbers, and it will never be exhausted. So that 0 before comma and 9 into eternity, that is the 0. 0 underlines 1. 0 tells us that there is only one. There is someone who exists. That's what 0 does. 0 tells us that there is an existent one. And it can manifest. Okay, this is something for thinking, for meditating, contemplating. It takes time, and it is, it's, yes, Anuradha.
Just thinking of it, that the one in terms of consciousness seems to represent consciousness, awareness. So everything exists, but when there is awareness, then that is that one. Because with awareness of consciousness, you experience the oneness of everything.
Yes, beautiful. But even this, what I said, 0.9 into the eternity, this one is actually mathematically proven. If you divide 1 by 9, what will you get? You will get 0, 1, 1, 1, 1 into eternity. If you divide 2 by 9, you get 0, 2, 2, 2, 2 into eternity. It's amazing. Just think about numbers. And then you divide 3 by 9, you get 0, 3, 3, 3, 3 into eternity. Then you divide 4, 0, 4 into eternity, 5, 0, 5 into eternity, 6, 0, 6, 7, 0, 7 into eternity, 8, divide by 9, 0, 8 into eternity. And 9 divided by 9 is 0, 9 into eternity. And this is something, you see, I just was repeating it because I want you to see where it comes from. It is a more simple way, 1 divided by 9, 0, 1 into eternity. And if I plus 1 divided by 9 9 times, then I will get 9 divided by 9, which is 0, 1 into eternity plus 0, 1 into eternity plus 0, 1 into eternity will get 0, 9 into eternity. It's just mathematically proven. It's not something I made up or some philosophy dawned on me or something. It's inbuilt in the mathematical formula, so to say. So this 1 is the biggest number from which you can derive any infinities. Purnamadav, Purnamidam. You remember? Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnam Adaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. You can take Purna from Purna, it will stay Purna. You cannot exhaust it. It's inexhaustible. So that is independent karta. It's a very powerful, at will chosen element to focus our consciousness upon. Yes, please, Arnab.
Hi, yeah, I just want to know this Purnamada, Purnameva Avashishyati, doesn't it implies infinity or it implies 1 or, 0? So I just want that clarification.
Well, what it implies is fullness, completeness, perfection. You can apply it to whatever your mind is capable to apply to. It's 1. In my view, it's 1. There is no 0 without 1. 0 is a servant. Brahman is the capacity, the possibility for the Atma, for the self, or let us say for the Purushottama to manifest himself in being and non-being. That's as Sri Krishna says, I am the creator who casts the seed into Samam Brahma. Samam Brahma is my yoni, which takes me, and from this conception, everything comes into being. This is 0 and 1, 1 and 0. Krishna is one, and Brahman, Samam Brahma, is zero, which takes everything into itself and manifests the one in many one, separate ones, selves, Atman, self-awareness of each point. Yeah, it's a paradox, yeah, but what to do? Okay, Karta. Karta is independent. Karma is the most desired. I'm going home. Home is desired object. Karanam is how I go home. By what means? With what help? By bus, suppose. I'm going home by bus. Here we have three major actions. I, home, me wanting home, me going home, with in a particular way which connects me and home in a way of bus. Bus is the means, the instrument which connects us. Three. So 1 + 2 is 3. So it is something which it's like a general first family of meanings. And notice how Panini calls them karta, karma, karanam, all from the same root. From root kri. It's like one family. It's quite interesting. And then sampradhanam. What is this sampradhanam? It is giving forward totally oneself forward, literally. Some totally forward, dhanam, giving. Giving oneself totally forward. What is that? I'm going home by bus for dinner. So it seems that home, although it is a direct object, it was meant for something else to happen afterwards. I arrive at home, and then I will have dinner. I'm doing this for some aim in the future, for something to happen in the future afterwards when I reach home. And notice how beautifully Panini defines. First of all, sadhakatamam karanam, the most suitable to achieve is karanam. So I'm going home by bus. By bus is that means by which I will achieve my aim in the most profound way. Sadhaka tamam. Yeah? The most sadhaka, the most conducive to reach the goal, to realize. And what a dative is interesting. Karmana yam abhipraiti sasampradhanam. What is, how to say, being achieved by karma, to which I arrive with the help of karma, that is sampradhana. So home was the means for me to arrive at dinner. Dinner was the point. Home was the means. Now look at this beautiful vision. So me going home, direct object, by bus connected, one family, for something in the future to happen. And apadanam, it is because of something, because my father called me, suppose, or I go from the office. So I leave something in the past because of the past cause. So apadanam belongs to the past, sampradhanam belongs to the future of this particular action, me going home by bus. I'm going home by bus because my father called me for dinner. These two go beyond this immediate action. They are no more karanam. They are not from root kri, they are from root da, to give. They are totally, and Panini describes this root da, to give, as separation, as cutting, because there are two meanings in the root da, yes? Giving and cutting. And he says that why cutting? Because it's always separating. Giving is actually separating. And even I think Katyayana is speaking about the slap. Why we say we give a slap? Because that energy, that red spot, which is on your face after the slap, is what I give to you. So I separate part of my energy and give it to you. So giving is always cutting from oneself and giving it away forward. Yeah? It's not something I give, like arrange that they will transfer. It's not giving. It has to be part of myself. I have to separate it from myself and give it to you. That's why with the giving, there is the whole mysterium in all cultures, especially Indian culture. You have to be very careful what gift you receive from whom. Why? Because he separates part of his energy, gives to you. Then you are becoming attached to him. You become part of his environment, his energy field, his consciousness field. This is very dangerous, to receive the gift which is not wanted. Strings attached, we say. Yeah, because that element is part of myself. And then we have Sambandha. And notice I put red color because Sambandha is not a Karaka, according to Panini, also profound, because it is not connected to the verb. The verb connects all these words into one meaningful tapestry picture. I is not enough. I am going. Going is enough. I am going home. Home is not enough. Going home is enough. Going home is a meaningful. By bus what? By bus going. Okay, going by bus. It's meaningful. So all of them are connected to the verb except Sambandha. Sambandha is not connected because it is connected to the noun. Noun to the noun. I am going to my mother's home. Mother's home is enough. Don't need the verb. That's why it is not karak. But it is in the system. And then finally, adhikaranam, location. I'm going home by bus for dinner from the office to my mother's home by bus for dinner from the office, 6 o'clock in the evening, or on the street, or in the town. Location in time and space. And there are no more relations, only these.
Sambodhanasya kim bhavati tatra? What happens to the
Sambodhanam, it
vocative?
does not belong to this
It's
system
not a
at all.
karaka, but how
No.
do normally when we do the vibhaktis, it's always included. So how did that fit into this thing? Like just like
Sambodhanam,
Sambandha is not a karaka, but it was fitted in. So Sambodhanam, the vocative also is not a karaka, but it's there, but it's not part of this the seven system that you've shown.
right. It's not included because Sambodhanam is not actually the third person, it's second person. It does not belong to this system. It's you have to Sambodhana, you have to speak, you have to have a person. Yeah, you have to speak. Anuradhe. I have to speak to you. That is Sambodhana. I cannot say it's all in the third person. He goes home, he is this, I am going. So it's descriptive. This is something descriptive, whereas Sambodhana is second person, is not fitting into the system. It was incorporated later as Ashtami Vibhakti, which is taken mainly as an example from, I think, from Latin grammar and put into Sanskrit grammar, or maybe not. I think so, but maybe not. I think it is a very recent phenomenon, Ashtami Vibhakti.
Panini doesn't have anything
No.
to do directly
Yeah,
with
he
this.
deals with Sambodhanam, but not as a karaka or case in that case. Yeah. Okay, I think our time is all. I have a class. I'm sorry. I have a class already 3 minutes. So if you look at these, please look at them, and I want you to think what they represent for you in philosophical terms. First karta and ending with adhikaranam, location. Yes. Yes, Arnab, here.
Yeah, I have a question. This is related to the starting of the class where you were stretching of the pronunciation part. Since you have a class, I'll not take much time, but I really want to know that in Vedic literature, they emphasize too much on the pronunciation part, so much so that they say that if you don't pronounce a mantra in the right way, in the right tone, and in the right, gap or right procedure, you're not going to gain any benefit. So was it to preserve the language, or it has got some real significance in spiritual world?
I think it's a discipline, a particular discipline to preserve the text, first of all, intact, because they knew that Prakrits change very fluently, and in few hundred years you will have nothing of the text. So you have to be very rigid with pronunciation, and all those myths are connected to that. Mainly. And actually it served its purpose. We have an authentic text with us today, over thousands of years, was preserved. That's for that reason mainly. I don't think that the Lord would not hear you if you would mispronounce a few things. If in your heart you are totally correct. Yeah. Well, but that is my opinion. I would not emphasize it too much, because there are many distortions already in the choices of pronunciation in different gurukulas, different systems of knowledge. Okay, you send me your emails. It would be nice. I would put you on the list in case you need to come. I'll put you for invitation for the next time. So please put your emails into the chat box if you want to be informed. Okay, I have to run already. So please meditate on this scheme, and next time we will start again. I want us to see how this profound meaning was revealed in Indian philosophy. You will discover it. I'm sure you will discover it. Just look at these and what they mean, and why in this hierarchy. Why this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, great. Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Namaste.
Bahut dhanyawadaha.
Dhanyawad.
Sadhguru.